North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We are located on the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. Today is Wednesday, November 15th, 2017, and your radio host for this hour is Robert Bean. I will be reading the news from the Rayford News Journal and the Dunn Daily. I will begin with the Rayford News Journal, Hope County's newspaper since 1905, serving Rayford and Hope County, North Carolina. This is the Wednesday, November 8th, 2017 edition. Bedford to get 110 additional houses. Subdivision first to take advantage of revised density requirements. The Hope County Board of Commissioners approved Monday plans for 2 large subdivision expansions for the Bedford community that will bring a total of 110 new houses to the development. The board members voted unanimously to approve the 2 requests from Morgan, Kaiser, and Rutzel that will see the Bedford subdivision grow. The first and larger of the 2 developments will include 60 lots on 16.90 acres, making it the first such subdivision to fall under the county's high-density housing policies that were put into place last year. The Eastlands at Bedford will have lots that are less than 8,000 square feet and therefore fall under the density bonus provisions of the county subdivision ordinance, according to the request. The subdivision will be about 1,500 feet west of the intersection of Midway Drive and Highway 401 and a continuation of the east side of Stonebriar Avenue. The second subdivision expansion commissioners approved Monday included the 50-lot Highlands at Bedford Phase 3, which will be on a 16.70-acre lot as a continuation of the west side of the development near Bedford Drive. Each of the lots meets the minimum lot size of the R8 zoning district. These phases of the development will not have any open space, and the developer will provide payment in lieu of the requirement at the time, and the final plat is required according to county paperwork. The roads for both developments will be private, but most still meet the minimum standards of the North Carolina Department of Transportation and the North Carolina Fire Code, whichever is more restricted. Both of the subdivisions will be on county utility services. Other business. In other business, the commissioners approved a 2-item amended consent agenda, including budget amendments for 6 county departments and a declaration of surplus property. The board members voted to appoint Don Woods, Susan Lynch, and Police Chief Mark Godwin to the Hope County Juvenile Crime Prevention Council. The commissioners additionally approved a request for support for an emergency management grant application, directed the Hope County Maintenance Department to put up a new sign for the Hope County Animal Shelter, approved a general use rezoning for a .69-acre parcel of land at 10679 Aberdeen Road from residential agricultural to neighborhood business to use as a produce, ice cream, or yard sale site, and supported a name change petition on behalf of Stephanie Campbell to change Angel Drive to Meekins Lane in memory of the late Willie Mae McCain. The commissioners held a closed session for personal discussion before adjourning. City adds limits to family care homes. Rayford City Council took measures Monday to limit the concentration of family care homes in the city. City planner Felicia Locklear told council group care homes and halfway houses can't be located within a half-mile of another by the terms of the Rayford Unified Development Ordinance. The family care homes are a more specific type of group home, and currently there aren't any restrictions on the concentration of them in the city. Locklear said a family care home is limited to 6 people with mental or physical disabilities, but who aren't a danger to themselves or others living in a family environment. Group homes aren't limited to those with disabilities and can house more people. For example, if I had a group of 6 single mothers who got pregnant, mothers who dropped out of school, parents kicked them out of the house and said you can't live here, the church says, okay, look, you obviously need some guidance. They have a need, but they don't have a disability they would meet for the state, so they would not meet family care. They would fall into a group home, she told council. Locklear said state rules don't allow municipalities to discriminate against occupants of family or group homes, but do allow limits on the concentration of them. The state says we can't treat them any differently. We can't make them a special use. We can't make them a conditional use. We can't make them apply for a variance. The only thing it does allow us to do is to put a half-mile separation to prevent us from having concentration in any one area, she said. I'd like for us to put that in there. Currently, we don't have that. After a brief public hearing, council voted unanimously to make the change. Locklear said afterwards the action wasn't really a response to a problem the county is having with the apparently accidental approval of two group homes only a few hundred feet apart, but the county's situation does point to the need to get the ordinance changed. She told council that any family care home already approved in a city would be grandfathered in. Been a tough road. A year after Hurricane Matthew hit the area, one road remains stubbornly closed in Rayford, Oakwood Avenue. City Manager Dennis Baxley said Monday night efforts to rebuild the road with FEMA's help have been a tough road as apparent progress was met with hurdles such as surprise required hydrology and hydraulics study. It seemed like things were going to progress fairly quickly, Baxley told council. We got our plans submitted. Charlie McGalligan developed plans. The day he dropped off the plans and left, we got a call from FEMA that said y'all qualified for hazard mitigation. So we back up, regroup, and do some hazard mitigation on the project. Fair enough. 2 or 3 months later, we meet again. Shortly after a meeting, Charlie is ready to seal and send the plans into the Department of Public Safety, and I get a call from FEMA. Hey, have y'all finished the project yet? No, we haven't. Gosh knows, now you gotta do an H&H study. The upshot, he told council, is FEMA stands prepared to pay for 75% of the expected $500,000 project upon completion, the other 25% after an inspection. The city would be on the hook for an estimated $157,000 until everything passes. Baxley said the city actually considered leaving the road closed, but it poses a hazard to area residents, not to mention an inconvenience. Council voted unanimously to award the project to a Lumberton company and get started. Top clerk. Rayford City Clerk got a shout-out at Council's Monday meeting, having received Regional Clerk of the Year Award from the Lumber River Council of Government. The Council's new director, David Richardson, was on hand to talk about the agency's work. And this is the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service, a United Way partner agency. We broadcast from the campus of Fayetteville State University, and our signal is carried by WUNC Chapel Hill. As a nonprofit agency, we rely on public donations. We request your support to continue our services. When making charitable donations, please keep the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service in mind. Our address is P.O. Box 35029, Fayetteville, North Carolina 28303. Any contributions to the Southeastern North Carolina Radio Reading Service are tax deductible. If you have any questions or comments, please call us at area code 910-672-1600 or toll free at 1-844-709-5656. The radio host is Robert Bean, and I'm proud to serve you today. Pastor says there's more to story behind arrest. A local pastor charged with a felony last week said there's more to the story, that he's been wrongly accused of a crime, while police say the charges still stand. The Reverend Dr. Lent Christopher Carr, 43, pastor of Emmaus Cathedral Church in Hope County and senior pastor of Emmaus Greater Pentecostal Assembly, was charged with writing a worthless check and uttering of a forged instrument. However, the pastor says he was acting as a property manager and had the legal power of attorney to do so on behalf of a client. Carr moved into Hope County in January and set up a church at a property located at 3300 Laurenburg Road, which was previously owned by Janetta Jordan. Public records show that Jordan owed back taxes on the property. Carr said that he paid out of his own funds to catch up previous years of back taxes on the 3300 Laurenburg Road property, but then Jordan directed him to write one of her checks and pay for the remaining back taxes on that property and 2 others she still owned, the pastor said. And Carr presented the county tax office with a check drawn on Jordan's BB&T bank account. The check bounced, and within a few weeks, 2 Rayford police officers showed up at his door wanting to talk. When he wrote a check on one of Jordan's bank accounts, he was acting legally on her behalf at her direction and had no reason to believe that the check would bounce. He said, "I've done no wrong. I've only done what my client requested for me to do," Carr said. Carr provided paperwork stating that he has power of attorney for Jordan, a former medical provider who is in jail in Raleigh, awaiting trial on charges of Medicaid fraud. The power of attorney document includes language granting Carr the right to handle financial affairs for Jordan. If you look down there on the first page, it specifically says I can make deposits and withdrawals or endorse any check, so how is that forgery? That's what I said to the detective. It makes no sense, Carr said. The document Carr provided, described as durable power of attorney, included a statement that the representative could conduct any business with any banking or financial institution with respect to any of my accounts, including, but not limited to, making deposits and withdrawals, negotiating or endorsing any checks or other instruments with respect to any such accounts, obtaining bank statements, passbooks, drafts, money orders, warrants, and certificates or vouchers payable to me by any person, firm, corporation, or political entity. The pastor said he met Jordan and he was asked to minister to her in his role as a clergyman. From there, he contracted with Jordan as a property manager to help her while she was in prison, Carr said. Besides his pastoral work, Carr also does consultations through Emmaus Corps, which offers legal briefing, collection, and investigative work and risk management. But then things got complicated, he said. The pastor said he made a mistake of not doing a property search when he bought the lot and building earlier this year. He didn't know about the back taxes that were owed on the property where he set up his new church, and Jordan did not tell him, according to Carr. The check he wrote at Jordan's direction was meant to pay off back taxes owed on 3 properties, the one where his church is located on Laurinburg Road, as well as properties in Jordan's name located at 571 Gatlin Farm Road and 4160 Laurinburg Road, he said. He'd been making payments on the back taxes owed on the church property since May using his own funds, the pastor said. Motive-wise, it makes no sense, he said. Why did the detective move forward in the manner he did? I can't answer that, but I do know that I have a durable power of attorney for this individual, which is backed by the North Carolina general statutes. The law dictates that for those that don't honor a durable power of attorney, they open themselves up for a suit. There is additional language in the power of attorney legal document that should have protected him, Carr added. Authorities said that the investigation is still ongoing at this time. Detective Nochi of the Rayford Police Department said he paid a visit to the district attorney's office before making the arrest. Nothing has changed since he filed the charges against Carr, and they are waiting on more information that is pending from the execution of the search warrant, Nochi said. What we released in the press release is all we can release at this point, the detective said. Asked about the power of attorney document that Carr possessed, the officer reiterated that the charges stand. He cut that check to the Hope County Tax Office knowing that it was not his check, and he endorsed it, Nochi said. Carr said he is working with lawyers and plans to fight the charges. Furthermore, the county tax office has already filed the judgment paperwork with the county clerk of court, he said. His arrest has also impacted his congregation and his family, Carr said. It has not only affected me, it has affected a lot of people, he said. Beyond that, the pastor said he also hopes to address conditions for those behind bars. Carr suffers from congestive heart failure and other medical conditions. Carr spoke of his time being in jail while ill and said he was not allowed to take medication he uses for another health condition. He described lying on a cement floor for hours while ill and having to wait overnight for medical treatment. The experience inspired him to work towards supporting health care for inmates, he said. Hope County Sheriff Hubert Peterkin said a jail's policy through Southern Health Partners, which provides nurses and inmate care, is not to administer any medications that are considered scheduled by law. The medication Carr said he takes and was not allowed to have while in jail is on the scheduled drug list under the United States Controlled Substances Act. Therefore, it is not administered to inmates, according to the sheriff. Rabid raccoon found near town. A raccoon that attacked a resident's pet on Hill Road just outside of Rayford Monday turned out to be rabid, according to Hope County animal control officials. The raccoon came onto someone's property and made contact with their animal, and that's when they called us, Hope County Animal Control Director Scotty Lucky said. The dog that had contact with the rabid raccoon had not been vaccinated against rabies and was euthanized, Lucky said. This is the first confirmed case of rabies in Hope County in the last 3 years. Officials urge the public to make sure their dogs and cats are vaccinated against rabies. The Hope County Animal Shelter is offering $10 rabies shots for dogs and cats. The shelter provides the shots by appointment on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. The payment must be in cash. You can call area code 910-875-4827 to set an appointment. Do not pick up or handle any stray dog or cat or any wild animals. Call local animal control to come pick it up, a public statement said. Report any animal bites and or scratches to animal control. Contact animal control to report any animals that are behaving strangely or aggressively. If your pet is behaving strangely or is injured, contact your local veterinarian immediately. Families should teach children about the dangers of stray and wild animals too in an effort to prevent bites and disease transmission. Anyone who is bitten or scratched by a wild animal should wash and rinse the wound thoroughly for several minutes, apply disinfectant, seek medical attention at once, and report the incident to animal control, according to officials. The incubation period for rabies after transmission of the disease is anywhere between 2 weeks and 6 months. Once symptoms appear, the disease is almost always fatal. The rabies virus infects the central nervous system, ultimately causing disease in the brain and death. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention said in a statement in public education materials. The early symptoms of rabies in people are similar to that of many other illnesses, including fever, headache, and general weakness or discomfort. As the disease progresses, more specific symptoms appear and may include insomnia, anxiety, confusion, slight or partial paralysis, excitation, hallucinations, agitation, hypersalivation, an increase in saliva, difficulty swallowing, and hydrophobia, fear of water. Death usually occurs within days of the onset of these symptoms. This is the first time since 2014 that a case of rabies was confirmed in Hope County, according to North Carolina public health records. There have been 7 cases of rabies in the county in the last 10 years. 6 out of the 7 cases involved rabid raccoons, while 1 tested positive for the illness in 2012. And that animal was a fox. Several cases of rabies have been reported in other counties this year, including in Cumberland County, where a rabid fox reportedly attacked and bit a 74-year-old woman and her 10-year-old granddaughter just a few weeks ago outside their home in Stedman. There have also been cases of rabies reported in Catawba and Buncombe counties in recent weeks, while Orange County has confirmed 8 cases of rabies since January. Livestock animals such as horses and cows can also contract the rabies virus. State veterinarian Doug Meeks encouraged people who own livestock animals to also have them vaccinated against the fatal disease. This year we have seen 5 cases of rabies in livestock, Meeks said in a statement. Horses, cattle, and goats are naturally curious animals, which puts them at risk for a bite if a rabid animal gets through their fence line. There are around 5 livestock rabies cases reported every year in North Carolina. In livestock animals, the disease is usually by saliva through a bite wound. Livestock infected with rabies don't always have the same symptoms that a smaller mammal might display, according to the North Carolina Division of Agriculture. Livestock infected with rabies usually appear depressed, have a lack of appetite, difficulty eating, drinking, or swallowing, profuse salivation, blindness, head pressing, circling, vocalization, fever, strained defecation, increased sexual excitement or activity, limp tail, anus, or tongue. Constant yawning, itching, or nibbling may be a sign of rabies too. Rabies can be associated with neurological problems such as incoordination, decreased muscle tone and reflexes, shifting lameness, or partial to complete paralysis. Horse owners should be aware that rabies can often mimic symptoms of colic in horses, the department said in a statement. The state issued suggestions of other ways people can protect themselves and their animals. Do not feed or attract wildlife to your yard or try to capture wild animals. Call local animal control if you notice a nocturnal animal out during the day demonstrating strange behavior such as no fear of humans or aggressive behavior. If you hunt, use gloves while skinning animals, particularly when handling nerve tissue or organs. If you are scratched or come into contact with the saliva of an animal you suspect was rabid, seek medical attention immediately. City Council incumbents win election. Turnout is 9%. Rayford incumbents will return to office for 4-year terms following a citywide election that saw typically low voter turnout for 2 races, one of which was uncontested. Rayford City Council members Charles Allen and Wayne Willis were re-elected to the board, defeating candidate Robert Colson. Incumbent Mayor John K. McNeil ran unopposed and will also return to the office. Allen will serve a second consecutive term on the board after first being elected to the seat in 2013. Willis returns for a third full 4-year term and served a partial term before that. McNeil will serve a 4th term in office after running unopposed for the second election cycle in a row. The mayor incumbent also held office for a previous partial term before running. Willis and Allen carried the vote, with Willis receiving 225 total votes and Allen receiving 197 total votes across the 3 city precincts. Candidate Colson received 94 votes. McNeil received 260 total votes. The one-stop and absentee ballots had 81 votes for Willis, 79 votes for Allen, and 24 for Colson, with 94 votes for McNeil. 287 people out of 3,058 registered voters in the city cast ballots in the election for a roughly 9% voter turnout. That's about a percentage point down from the number of people who voted in the 2013 municipal elections. The results are considered unofficial until canvass, which is set for November 17th. Only Rayford residents, not Hope County residents, were able to vote in the municipal election. City Council elections in Rayford are nonpartisan, so there's not a primary partisan election, and candidates filed in summer to run for office. Next year we'll see many county officials on the ballot, with 3 Hope County commissioners, 3 Hope County Board of Education members, the office of Hope County Sheriff, and many more positions at the state and federal levels up for election. So far, 3 people have announced their intent to run for the county commission, and 2 people have announced their intention to run for sheriff. Joseph Austin, Terrell Samuel McMillan, and Graham Poole have all filed notice of intention to run for office, and incumbent Sheriff Hubert Peterkin and candidate Darren Bronson have also announced their campaigns. The filing period for 2018 partisan races will open February 12, 2018. Viewpoints. Frog Hollow philosopher Ron Huff. Constitution not meant to be inflexible. The Constitution of the United States of America is a truly remarkable document that was fought over and forged using the most current world ideas of that day. The founding fathers who produced it were members of the intellectual and economic elite of the day, but spoke for the common man. While the governments of the great countries have evolved through time, this was an opportunity to start with a clean slate. Imagine the responsibility these men felt when putting these ideas into a document that would define the principles of our government. Many speak of the Constitution as if it is infallible, forgetting that even though remarkable, it was the work of human beings. The infallibility theory was put to the test immediately, as the document could not be ratified until clarification was provided. The resultant Bill of Rights provided enough detail to give the states a better feeling about its viability. It is telling that the framers had to be prodded to include it. They were smart enough to know that whatever they stated as rights would be under constant scrutiny and interpretation. These stated rights were not proclamations from God, who, by the way, was clearly separated from the workings of the government. Their interpretation is controversial. Similarly, the interpretation of the Bible is controversial and is used conveniently to enforce many points of view. Though great, they were only men, and only the knowledge of the current world to draw on. To say that things were different then is a major understatement. Voting rights, for instance, were not well defined and were limited to male landowners. Forget those who owned no land, the women, the Native Americans, and Africans in the population. Slavery, though immoral, was tolerated as a necessary economic driver at that time. America was not ready for its abolition. It eventually resulted in a civil war. Did the farmers think they were infallible? Of course not. They knew there would be omissions and that the passage of time would require clarification and adjustments as conditions evolved. They included the mechanism for amending the Constitution and had to use it themselves to get it ratified. There's no way the framers could have envisioned our country today with 324 million people and 50 states as compared to the 4 million of that day. They could not have guessed that modern means of communication would allow instant access to information from all over the world. The written word was their only means of mass communication. Letters were carried by horses and boats, taking days, weeks, or months. In spite of the vast differences in the world today, many stubbornly cling to strict interpretations of a constitution written in 1787. It is certainly a wonderful benchmark, but not meant to be inflexible. Many reverently tout its perfection while disregarding it when it is convenient. We claim the right of free speech until someone we don't agree with speaks out. We conveniently forget that there is freedom of religion when we don't like the religion. We love the protections provided, but don't want those protections extended to people who we would prefer not to be among our population. We put our own citizens into internment camps during World War II. We insist on our rights to arm ourselves, but reserve the right to limit the defenses of other nations. We complain about the Electoral College, an antiquated system, until it gets our candidate elected. We have failed to amend it away, but in righteous indignation enacted prohibition only to change our minds later. No problem. The framers knew better than to meddle in the pursuit of happiness. The Constitution did a great job of defining the branches of government, but it did not prevent us from muddying the process by allowing money and lobbying to influence every branch. I don't remember the Supreme Court being defined in political terms, but we continue to politicize our courts on both the national and local level. We conveniently violate the spirit of the Constitution. This makes no sense to me. That being said, there are plenty of things that make no sense to me. We extol the virtues of the intellectual framers, but now treat intellect as if it impedes the ability to govern. Facts are often dismissed as inconvenient. We apparently like our politicians ignorant and incapable of analysis. After all, we elect them again and again, more later. Next election will be ugly. By Thomas Mills, Politics NC. If you want to get an idea of what the 2018 election cycle will look like, check out the races in Virginia. It's not pretty. Both sides are using ugly racial and cultural stereotypes to gin up their base voters. Republicans imply that Hispanic gangs are infiltrating the state. Democrats insinuate that local rednecks want to harm immigrant children. The ads just widened the cultural divide that's given us Donald Trump. On the Republican side, GOP nominee Ed Gillespie has been running ads that say Democratic nominee Ralph Northam supports sanctuary cities that will become havens for the violent Latino gang MS-13, whose motto, ads claim, is kill, rape, control. Of course, Northam doesn't support allowing criminals to take over his state, but Gillespie's ads are aimed at Trump supporters who might otherwise sit the election out. Establishment Republicans, of whom Gillespie is one, are looking the other way, just hoping Gillespie can eke out a win in a state that has been trending Democratic for the past decade. Democratic response came this week with an ad that shows a white guy in a pickup truck with a Confederate flag on the back chasing and intimidating immigrant kids who are otherwise just minding their own business. The truck has a Gillespie bumper sticker on the back. While the ad might be trying to juice non-white voters in the state, it's probably targeted more toward white liberals in cities who already have negative views of Trump supporters from rural areas. The ads have a tit-for-tat feel to them. It's almost like the two sides are saying, if you're going to portray our supporters like that, we're going to portray yours like this. It's more a battle of ad makers giving their allies something to cheer about in a take that sort of way than an appeal to people who either need persuading or motivating. I suspect Gillespie's ads have more impact on their targeted audience, though. As a guy who grew up driving pickups and who now lives in a town with a substantial Hispanic population, I find both sides disturbing. They epitomize the zero-sum mentality of politics today, appealing to cultural biases and disregarding the strength of our diversity. Regardless of their political persuasion, most rural white men don't support the Ku Klux Klan or white supremacist organizations. Most Hispanic residents, whether here legally or not, are hard-working, law-abiding people who just want better lives for their children. Pitting the two sides against each other as political foils damages our country by exploiting the racial and cultural divides that need to heal if we hope to function better as a society in the future. Thomas Mills is the founder and publisher of politicsnc.com. we get letters. We'll tell you what Vietnam was really like. John A. Plummer writes to the editor, after reading Ronnie Huff's column about Ken Burns' Vietnam War series, I'm just as frustrated as I've always been over the past 45 years with people who think they have all the answers but never spent a night or day in harm's way. Burns and Huff have based their reports on hearsay and interviews with people who fit their preconceived notions of the war and who reflect the most negative impressions of that era. Neither of them was there. I was. I spent 2 years in Vietnam, and I'm proud of every second of my service. In a TV series, I refuse to call it a documentary, I heard a lot of what John Kerry, Jane Fonda, Peaceniks, and other protesters had to say, but did you notice that you didn't hear what the troops in the field had to say, unless they fit Burns' party line of negativity? The vast majority of troops were proud of their country, their service, and truly believed they were stemming the spread of communism. We believed that we were fighting for the liberty of the Vietnamese people. Those who die for the cause of freedom do not die in vain, as Mr. Huff implies. He just spit in the face of every one of my 28 friends whose names are on that granite wall in Washington, D.C. Huff tosses around the usual stereotypes about massacres and lives being sacrificed to claim victories. Other than my lay, name one massacre, Ron, I can name you 10 more atrocities by the North Vietnamese. I spent 2 years in combat units in Vietnam, and I never saw one single massacre. I never saw a civilian or enemy harmed except in combat, and to claim otherwise is an insult to the good men who served with me. To imply that we went around indiscriminately shooting people reflects the nonsense depicted in Hollywood movies. Name one battle where lives were sacrificed simply to claim a victory. Go ahead, I'll wait. You see, Ron, victories are what wars are all about, and in order to win a victory, people often die. But to imply that lives were sacrificed just to win a victory and, by implication, gain a claim for the commanders is ludicrous. In short, Ron Huff and Ken Burns don't know what they're talking about. Don't you talk with someone who felt proud to serve, who was willing to put up with the jungle filth, the fear of being killed, and the loneliness of being far from home and family in order to fight for the right of the Vietnamese people to enjoy the same rights we enjoy in our country. Why don't you, Ron? Or do you think you learned all you need to know from the 5 minutes of TV news that brought the war into our living rooms when you were in high school and from Ken Burns' little propaganda project? Come see me, Ron, or any other combat veteran, and we'll tell you what Vietnam was really like and what it was all about. And that will conclude the reading for the News Journal. Move over to the Daily Record, dated also Wednesday, November 8th, 2017. A trip home to U.S. aboard a minesweeper. A Navy narrative, Irwin Mann recalls his service. C.L. Jernigan was born out in the country near Irwin. He quit Irwin High School and joined the Navy in 1951 at the age of 18. He served for 5 years, 3 of those years during wartime. Near the end of his naval service, he would finally board a historic wooden-hulled minesweeper USS Waxbill to head back to the United States, accidentally finding a mine off the coast of California on his way. The Korean War began on June 25, 1950, and ended in July of 1953. Around 5 million people died, nearly 40,000 of whom were American. The now 84-year-old Irwin resident and business owner spent most of his time in service on boats, acting as a quartermaster. If you ever seen a movie where a ship was on and the lights would flash, that was one of my jobs on the ship, Mr. Jernigan said. I also took care of the maps when new maps were located. Mr. Jernigan followed his brother into service. His brother joined at age 17 and followed up his shipment service with a tour in the Army. One thing I wish I would have went and got an education without going into the Navy, he said. I went into the Navy for lack of good sense, but hey, I had a good life. He said he would have enlisted sooner, but his mother made him wait until he turned 18. I put 5 years into the Navy, he said. Most went 4 years. He discovered during his duties that once at sea, landing back on land is a little harder than to be expected. He spent time in Yokosuka, Japan, and in a Korean city known as Busan. He was told he would do service duty in Japan, but there was no job available in Yokosuka, and so he was transferred to Korea. I went there, Mr. Jernigan said. I was supposed to serve 90 days, but they kept me 1 year and 90 days. The Korean War was all but over during his tour, he said. The shooting had all stopped. My time was not like some of the servicemen that had people shooting at them, he said. I was lucky. Even though Mr. Jernigan was not notching constant combat hours, his tour kept getting extended. The Navy always made you go longer, he said. On several occasions, a 20-something Clarence Jernigan asked to switch responsibilities to be taken off the ship and work from the land. In Japan, he requested shore duty. The Navy said that he was qualified for it. They didn't have an available position. That led to his transfer to Korea and an extended stay aboard the boat, not the shore. They had lied to me about shore duty, he said. I asked for shore duty, and they were going to send me to Alaska for 12 months because I didn't have enough time left. I told him I would stay another year for shore duty in Japan. They sent me to Korea for over a year and 90 days. Just after those 455 days that Mr. Jernigan would catch the first glimpse of his ride home, a once unnamed ship, later called the Waxbill. The USS Waxbill was originally a wooden-hulled minesweeper. It was named Waxbill on February 18, 1947, and went on to earn 6 battle stars for Korean War service. He boarded a historical ship, which had served since September 30th, 1943, on August 10th, 1955, in Yokosuka, Japan, bound for California. Traded places. That's when I got on the Waxbill, he said. The Waxbill was going back to San Francisco, and there was a guy on there who wanted to stay in Japan. I wanted to go back to the United States, so I got on the Waxbill. He wanted to stay, and I wanted to go back, so we swapped duty. That's how I got back on the ship. I spent only 2 months on a legendary ship that would exit Navy service some 3 years later on November 1st, 1958, saying, it was a very short time that I was on the Waxbill. Despite the now 23-year-old sailor's desire to drop anchor, the heralded wooden warrior had other ideas. On the journey home for Mr. Jernigan, the USS Waxbill did what came naturally to it. It found a mine. The minecraft had participated in minesweeping operations near Busan, Busan, Incheon, Pyongyang, and Tojangpu from 1951 until 1953, sweeping more than 40 mines and earning the Korean Presidential Unit Citation. There were mines that were put out there in the water to take care of San Francisco so no Japanese ships would come in without having any problems, Mr. Jernigan said. They tried to take the mines out earlier, but they left some out there. We found one by accident. Some of the guys who were on the ship in 1955 were on the ship when they had located mines, he said. We didn't know we were looking for mines. It was strictly by accident. One of only 3 men who boarded the Waxbill who were still living, Mr. Jernigan said the crew called in another, bigger and more sophisticated ship to fix the explosive device from the sea. They had the material. They were designed to take mines out, he said. We had the equipment to take mines out, but we didn't do it this one time. Minesweeping, not extraction, was the expertise of the Waxbill. Admittedly, Mr. Jernigan didn't care for the Waxbill much, saying it was smaller than the ships he was used to. However, he harbors a hunk of his heart for the hulls that hauled him home. He thought to make a career in the Navy, but again, U.S. soil had a firm clinch on his roots. I would have stayed in, but I was getting married, and they told me I would only have 1 shore duty, he said. I thought it's not right to get married and only have shore duty 2 out of 20 years. Mr. Jernigan worked for Remington Rand, selling office equipment and typewriters for 1 year in California. He worked with Wachovia in Winston-Salem for 2 years, and again at Wachovia and Raleigh for 23 years. He returned to Irwin in 1959 to care for his ailing parents. I've been lucky, he said. I had a good life, I had a good job. I didn't make a whole lot of money, but that's the way it goes sometimes. Man charged with assaulting grandmother. A Lillington man faces multiple charges after allegedly breaking into a home and assaulting his grandmother. According to Harnett County Sheriff's Lieutenant Greg Taylor, Charles Lamont Moore, 39, of Lillington, broke into his grandmother's house on October 1st and assaulted her. He's now charged with breaking and entering to terrorize or injure, assault by strangulation, habitual misdemeanor assault, communicating threats, and assault on a handicapped person. Lieutenant Taylor described Mr. Moore's grandmother as elderly. The habitual misdemeanor charge was added because Mr. Moore has several misdemeanors in his past. Mr. Moore was taken before a magistrate and bond was set at $75,000. He is in the Harnett County Jail. Granting wishes. Harnett County Community Foundation awards grants, honors Esther Howard. The words refined, respectful, and dignified all describe the Harnett County Community Foundation's Grant Award event. The foundation awarded 7 grants: Beacon Rescue Mission, CareNet Counseling, Coates Senior Center, Fort Bragg Armed Services YMCA, His Daily Bread Ministries, Special Olympics of North Carolina, and Think Smart Outreach Center are the 2017 recipients. It was a great night, Harnett County Community Foundation President Catherine J. Tart said. The atmosphere is one of service to the community and love and respect for the community. It's a culmination of a lot of people doing a lot of hard work so that we can get the funds to the right people in Harnett County so they can continue to do the good work that they do. Ms. Tart and board member Coley Price distributed the grant checks. Board member Esther Howard was given a certificate and recognized as board member emeritus. According to Regional Director Don Neighbors, Ms. Howard has been a board member since the mid-1990s. Ms. Howard talked about the importance of giving back to the community, saying sometimes it comes back to you. She said she's been blessed to have served as a Harnett County Community Foundation board member, asking politely if she can still come to the meetings. Mrs. Neighbors and past President Mary Ellen Lauder lovingly said, "Of course you can." She's been a very engaged and active board member, Mrs. Neighbors said. Ms. Howard is a retired Harnett County elementary school teacher who earned her degree from Campbell and Meredith colleges many years ago. She still is a lifetime trustee at Campbell University. Harnett County Community Foundation maintains more than 40 endowments and scholarships as well. The Harnett County Community Foundation was founded in 1993 by a group of local citizens to address community needs. The Board of Advisors all live and work in Harnett County, so they are familiar with the community's needs. The Harnett County Community Foundation is an affiliate of the North Carolina Community Foundation, which assures professional stewardship of all funds. For the calendar year 2016, more than $222,000 in grants and scholarships were awarded through NCCF to benefit people and nonprofit organizations in Harnett County. Of that, the Harnett County Community Foundation awarded $5,500 through its Community Grants Program to local nonprofit organizations. In 2017, the board is awarding nearly $5,900 in grants through this program. Each year, the Harnett County Community Foundation administers a competitive grant program available to all nonprofit organizations in Harnett County. The Harnett County Community Foundation Board has distributed more than $60,000 since inception in grants and scholarships to benefit people and programs in Harnett County. Ms. Tart and Mrs. Neighbors said an anonymous donor in Raleigh will match any donation to the Harnett County Community Fund made in November. Mrs. Neighbors called the match the Chairman's Challenge, saying 59 affiliates participate in the fundraiser. Last year, more than $4,000 was raised with a matching $3,000 gift from the anonymous donor. Your check is worth more in November than any time during the year, Mrs. Neighbors said. She added that any money donated to the Harnett County affiliate stays in Harnett County. Mrs. Neighbors also said there are current vacancies on the board. Anyone interested in becoming a board member can contact her at area code 910-292-4437 or any other board member. The obituaries: Joyce Stone Jackson, 85, was born November 11, 1931, to the late Mangrum and Luda Stone in Dunn, North Carolina. Joyce went home to meet our Savior face-to-face on Sunday, November 5, 2017. The Forsyth Palliative Care Unit could not have been kinder to our family and loved ones as they tied prayer knots in the lovely quilt provided by the Clemens Baptist women during Joyce's final hours. Funeral services were held at 2 p.m. on Saturday, November 11, 2017, at Haynes Lineberry Van Story Chapel. Burial followed at Westminster Garden Cemetery. The family received friends from noon until 2 p.m. at the funeral home, 2 hours prior to the funeral. Joyce was a loving and devoted wife, mother, grandmother, sister, aunt, and friend. She graduated valedictorian from Plainview High School in 1950. Joyce was a faithful member of Westover Church in Greensboro, was a retired sales associate at Mickey's Hallmark for 20 years, volunteered at Peck Elementary School and Florida Street Baptist Church. In addition to her parents, Joyce was preceded in death by her sister, Eunice Riles, and her brother, Larry Stone. The family would like to extend their heartfelt thanks to the Forsyth Emergency Room staff and also the staff in the Cardiac ICCU. In lieu of flowers, memorial contributions may be made to Samaritan's Purse International Relief Fund, P.O. Box 3000, Boone, North Carolina, 28607. Online condolences may be made at www.hayneslineberryfuneralhomes.com. Larry Del Mons, 68 of Benson, died Sunday, November 5th, 2017 at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center in Fayetteville. He was born in Harnett County on May 1st, 1949, son of the late Melvin and Annie Reeves Mons. A memorial service was held Thursday at noon at Cromartie Miller Funeral Home Chapel, with Pastor Louis Bass officiating. The family received friends Thursday from 11 to 11:50 a.m., 1 hour prior to the service. In lieu of flowers, the family requests memorials be made to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, 501 St. Jude Place, Memphis, Tennessee 38105. You can email donors at stjude.org or call 1-800-805-5856. Katrina Simmons Bodner, 48 of Mammers, died Sunday, November 5, 2017, Cape Fear Valley Medical Center. She was born in Harnett County on November 9, 1968, to the late Robert Pegram and Glenda Sue Smith Pegram. She was also preceded in death by her son, Jonathan Ivy Allen. Mrs. Bodner attended South Johnston High School. She worked as a manager for Subway and attended Antioch Baptist Church in Mammers. Funeral service was held 11 a.m. Thursday at Skinner and Smith Funeral Home Chapel. Burial followed in Memorial Park Cemetery. Visitation was held at 10 a.m. Thursday, 1 hour prior to service at the funeral home. Peggy Joyce Page Patterson, 84 of Mammers, died Monday, November 6, 2017, at Universal Healthcare in Lillington. She was born in Harnett County, daughter of the late Zeb and Irma Wester Page. Mrs. Patterson worked at Cornell Dubilier and Fuquay Varina and Sanford for many years. She was a member of Holly Springs Baptist Church in Broadway. She enjoyed quilting, baking, and fishing. Funeral service was held at 3 p.m. Thursday at Holly Springs Baptist Church Multi-Purpose Building in Broadway, with the Reverend Scott Yao officiating. Burial followed in a church cemetery. Family received friends in the church multi-purpose building Thursday from 2 to 2:45 p.m. In lieu of flowers, memorials may be made to Holly Springs Baptist Church, 385 Holly Springs Church Road, Broadway, North Carolina, 27505. Arrangements by O'Quinn Peebles Phillips Funeral Home and Crematory, Lillington. And Gary Donald Schrader, 68 of Fuquay Varina, died Monday, November 6, 2017 at Cape Fear Valley Medical Center in Fayetteville. He worked for Gregory Poole Equipment Company in Raleigh for over 30 years. Private family service will be held at a later date. Survivors include his wife and 2 sons. Arrangements by O'Quinn Peebles Phillips Funeral Home and Crematory, Lillington. Eager to share his tale. The Daily Record learned of C.L. Jernigan's war narrative when he brought by photos and information for the Daily Record's inaugural Veterans Day magazine, which will be in subscribers' copies last Friday. He's been married twice and has 1 child. His daughter, Tamar Jernigan, is 39 years old. She lives in Pittsburgh with her husband and 4 children. Her oldest child is 5 years old. He would love to leave his storage unit business on Red Hill Church Road, BSB service, to his heirs, but he says that his family is too busy to take proper care of it. Mr. Jernigan said, "My daughter and son-in-law are too far away to take care of it, and I'm getting too old to do all that." In the last several years, he's had health problems, following oral surgery and a minor but injurious car accident, he spent nearly $8,000 on doctor visits. His physicians couldn't find a diagnosis for his symptoms, and he was left feeling isolated, going several days without leaving his home or speaking to anyone. So, for the former Korean quartermaster, an opportunity to tell tales of his time in the Asia Pacific was welcome. Dear Abby, with Abigail Van Buren, divorce mom moles overruling dad on daughter's social life. Dear Abby, my ex-husband and I have been divorced for 3 years and share custody of our 10-year-old daughter who lives with me full-time. Father lives out of state and sees her during the summer months. Last year my daughter had an incident, and I'll show you mine, you show me yours kind of thing, with a friend at school. My ex and I decided they should no longer hang out after school alone anymore. The year has gone by, and because they're in the same social circle at school, my ex is refusing to allow her to go to any events this friend attends, birthdays, sleepovers, even though there is always adult supervision. Makes me sad to see her miss out, and I understand that the incident is normal for kids that age. What can I do? Since she does not live with him, can I overrule? I'll show you mine. Dear, I'll show you mine. Sorry your ex-husband doesn't understand that sexual curiosity in children is normal, because it appears he has overreacted. He cannot dictate the rules in his household. However, while your daughter is living with you during the winter months, he cannot overrule your parenting decisions either. Dear Abby, I am a 43-year-old woman who is trying to win back my high school sweetheart. He contacted me through Facebook 7 years ago, and we've been talking off and on ever since. I've never gotten over him, but he's had 2 bad past relationships and says he isn't ready for another one at this time. What can I do to let him know I haven't gotten over him since high school and that I'd love to try again? The relationship ended because my parents thought I was too young to have a boyfriend. I was 15 and he was 17. He says he would love to try again one day, just not now. There are some things I could do to let him know, hey, I'm still here and I want a second chance, without scaring him away. High school sweetheart in Florida. Dear sweetheart, he knows you're still here and wants a second chance. Because he still isn't ready to give a romance with you another try, face it, the status quo could last indefinitely. You have devoted several precious years to trying to sway him. It's time for you to move on. Now he reacts as you begin to disengage. I'll let you know if you have made the right decision. Dear Abby, since the last presidential election, our oldest son has stopped communicating with us. He would text us, but his texts were so disrespectful and hurtful we had to block him from our phones. He's a grown man and we love him. What should we do? Disappointed parents. Dear parents, the last presidential election has proved to be so divisive that it has ended friendships and caused rifts in some families. Blocking your son from your phones was a mistake. It would have been better to have just told him you would prefer not to discuss politics via text messages. Until both sides can start listening respectfully to each other, healing and understanding will not happen. Unblock your phone and let your son know that he hurt your feelings, which is why you did it. Dear Abby is written by Abigail Van Buren, also known as Jean Phillips, and was founded by her mother, Pauline Phillips. Contact Dear Abby at www.dearabby.com or P.O. Box 69440, Los Angeles, California, 90069. Rick's Ramblings with Rick Curl. What about us? Don't we deserve one too? As I drive down the road each morning heading to work like most of you out there, I listen to music on the radio. In doing that, there's something I've noticed when it comes to the subject of songs. There are tunes that honor truckers, mothers, fathers, sons and daughters, even your kissing cousin. There are songs that herald historic events, some good and some not so good. There are musical tributes to cities like Chicago and New York, Leaving Your Heart in San Francisco, and even The Love You Lost Far Across Deep Blue Waters. There are tributes even to singers themselves. Bob Willis is still the king. Hank Williams, You Wrote My Life, and even songs offering to help other singers like I'll Fix Your Flat Tire, Merle, but nowhere have I ever heard or even heard of a song dedicated to journalists, specifically newspaper journalists. Where is the ballad telling of the able and harried young man who spent his hours in a courtroom not fighting for his life or trying to decide the fate of the defendant, but a man sent there to tell the story? Songwriters are often called storytellers, and even songwriters have had tunes dedicated to their craft. Heck, I think there's even songs about songs. Journalists are a unique breed of people, not unlike those often memorialized in music. We deal with an array of people, both good and bad. We tell stories of those people, events, and things that have changed the world, changed our towns, and our neighborhoods. But do we get the credit with a ballad of our own? Not a chance. We just have to sit there and, like the public servants we are, and just take it. When was the last time you spent 2 hours listening to a politician go on about what he plans to do if he gets elected, then have to put his unique language into words the common person can understand and appreciate or hate? It's not easy, let me tell you. You have to be able to get along with everybody. You have to be able to switch gears at a moment's notice to make the subject of your story feel as though you are willing to tell their story, which comes naturally when you do care about the people you write about. Our task as the watchdogs of the world is one that has never been glorified by the likes of Frank Sinatra, Hank Williams Sr., or Tony Bennett. But coffee, bridges, and women who only love you half as much as you love them get the glory all the time. It's not that I'm jealous or angry or anything like that. Not at all. I admire those who write the songs simply because they have a special talent. A talent that allows them to make us all feel good or sad at the strum of a chord. Isn't it funny, though, we as journalists can make you feel good or sad with just the stroke of a keyboard? Guess we're not all that far apart from our songwriting brethren. As reality goes, so does our jobs. If it weren't for reality, we wouldn't be called journalists. We'd be called novelists. If we can only put our stories to music, what would that be? Well, that would be a terrible song, but a great story, right? Rick Curl is a reporter with the Daily Record. You can reach him by calling area code 910-230-2037 or email rcurl@mydailyrecord.com. In Bloomberg News, Congress should clean its own house. Congress has a rich history of exempting itself from rules it imposes on everyone else. Insider trading doesn't apply. Whistleblower protections? Not in Congress. Workplace safety rights? Less is more. The Freedom of Information Act? Surely you jest. The most egregious example of this, do as we say, not as we do approach, may concern sexual harassment. Last week, as the fallout from the Harvey Weinstein scandal continues, the House Administration Committee announced that it would review the body's embarrassingly backward harassment policies. It's about time. The 1995 Congressional Accountability Act applied most legal and civil rights laws to Congress, but instead of subjecting itself to the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, which enforces those laws, Congress created a weaker oversight body, the Office of Compliance, and exempted itself from basic safeguards against violations that are all too common. As a result, employees of federal agencies, but not members of Congress, are required to take training on sexual harassment. Agencies, but not Congress, must post information about where to report workplace violations. Legislative employees who wish to report sexual harassment must request counseling from the Office of Compliance, even though its board of directors is appointed by members of Congress, an inherent conflict of interest. After a 30-day counseling period, employees must file a request for mediation, which is led by an outside official. Only after this 30-day mediation process may employees request an administrative hearing or file suit. Although mediation can be a useful process, it can also deepen the pain and subject accusers to pressure from the accused, who can use mediation, which is confidential, to try to talk them out of pursuing their case. If a victim goes public before the conclusion of the counseling and mediation process, he or she is subject to sanctions. This system was unenlightened, to put it mildly, when it was instituted in 1995. But in 2017, and in view of the widely reported experience of Hill staff members, it should be seen for what it is, an enabling mechanism. Federal employees who work on Capitol Hill should have no fewer protections than other federal employees. Congress should abide by the same laws and standards it places upon federal agencies, private businesses, and the general public. And this concludes this reading of the Rayford News Journal and the Dunn Daily. The radio host has been Robert Green. To our radio listeners, we will now join the Raleigh Network for additional programming. Thank you for tuning us in. We've enjoyed being with you. Have a wonderful day.
Top came off, and inside there was a barrel and a magazine and action